Because that's exactly what it says in the Act.
I think, I think that's open to interpretation on
I,
the grounds that the local doctors would have advised the guard. Now, this is previous experience, not specific to your case, but previously, my experience is where the local doctor said, I'm not willing to do it, it has to be the guard doctor, then that changes the focus back. It still maintains the person's detention in the custody of the guards for the mental health purpose until the Garda doctor then makes that decision.
yeah, but if it's recorded that the doctors didn't want to, then it becomes a matter of the doctors just saying, you know, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
That then is a breach of the Act. I mean, I managed to track down a copy of Walsh, you know, the law book on arrest and entry and everything. And Walsh runs it down pretty clearly and gives reference to cases. And in the context that I mean, I wouldn't have really brought this if it wasn't, you know, there's an example of a case of FW versus Department of Psychiatry, Connolly Hospital, and then there's you know, there's other couple of cases. I did run through the Walsh textbook.
That's okay. I accept all of that. That's not a problem.
Because that would put it in a situation where if you looked at it in the reverse, if we just took it as a theoretical, if you looked at it in the reverse, it wouldn't work, because hypothetically you could arrest me for say drunk driving, and then if for whatever reason that was not the case, or you know, I blew a zero, you could then you know, go, actually we'll section you instead. It's if you put it contextually what happened then later, it doesn't work as a precedent.
That's okay.
And so that would make that, then the problematic part is that then makes everything after D up to H false imprisonment.
Yeah. Well, listen, like I said, I don't have all the facts of everything that happened, or obviously twice the medical records, those bits and pieces. So based only on my own experience, I can say that it has happened before where the doctor would say, I'm not going to give an opinion, you need to go back to a Garda doctor, and I would be happy that would maintain the custody of the person until the appropriate person is seen and assessed, the individual. But that's not necessarily the facts in your case.
Yeah, and see, then you have a problem where, so there's a couple of points here where, and you know, I figured as a sort of a mannerly thing, I'd also just discuss it with you guys just to see how you wanted to deal with it, because Ciaran refuses to section me on his first visit.
Okay.
And leaves, and they had a row that started in the hallway, and then it went into one of the interview rooms. It's very clear that Gillen was shouting at Ciaran and trying to force him to do what he wanted, which was, as is recorded in my James's medical records, was Gillen repeatedly trying to force James's into directing me to be remanded into custody in either Clover Hill Psychiatric or the Central Mental.
And he didn't, and you were released from Kevin Street, is that correct?
No, at that point, after Ciaran left, I was, I'm not being dramatic, this is an accurate description. After a little while, I was, the guard that was minding me in the room was pulled away, and I was left on my own. So it was a bit of psychological theatre. Then after a little bit, a very angry Gillen appeared and walked me to the charges window. I was made stand there for another little bit, and then Gillen came forward and stood in front of me and I suppose clapped his heels together, and then loudly discharged me under the Mental Health Act. Then Gillen left, and the person who was at the charges window left, and I was left on my own. I was left on my own for quite a while, and I was just standing there with blankets, and I was kind of asking, like I was afraid to move, because you would be, and it's kind of just like, what do I do? Am I free to go? Because I was just left, you know. He just discharged me and left, and then after maybe about, I don't know, 5 or 8 minutes, I'm not really sure, it felt like a very long time, he appeared from behind me. And then he proceeded to arrest me for a litany of charges that appear nowhere in anything. And starting with, I think it was, bear in mind I've got dyscalculia, so memories of numbers is bad. It was, I'm just going to say it was 8, but it could have been between 6 to 9. So we'll just say 8 charges of attempted murder, Then it was 8 charges of attempted manslaughter. Then it was 8 charges of attempted grievous bodily harm. Then it was 8 charges of attempted assault. Then it was 8 charges of attempted assault with a weapon. Then it was obstruction to justice, resisting arrest, reckless endangerment, and a few others that I forget now. It was such an absurd litany that it managed to crack the PTSD shock side, and I ended up having an argument with Gillen. And part of the way through that argument, he started shouting in my face about compensation. So, then recognizing that I'd been rearrested again, I asked for another call to a solicitor and the doctor again, and my medication again. I was once again taunted about my medication. Then I wasn't given charge sheets for any of this at any point, actually, and I've never seen them. Then then I was escorted back to a cell by Gillen while I was saying, should I not get a phone call and to the solicitor and the doctor, please? And there was another guard there briefly, and I went, that is, since I've been rearrested, that is, I do have those rights renewed, don't they? And they said yes. And I said, well, then Gillen disappeared for a minute, then came back and then escorted me to the cell. I was saying that, and he said, the only thing he said was, yeah, in a while or later, and slammed the door of the cell on me. And then, the rest was, since during that time I'd also heard a number of guards talking about beating me in a cell, I got attention to get myself back to James's, which has since been...
Did you put this in a complaint to GSOC?
It's been put in a complaint to GSOC, except it would appear that the GSOC representative has some contact with Gillen.
Okay.
Because they... And that's now the subject of both a civil case, which are the papers in front of me, that have to be finished, filed on Monday, against that GSOC representative and GSOC itself, as the GSOC representative abused access to my medical records and sort of derailed the whole thing for Gillen into talking about my child abuse, which is why it was so sensitive subject when you brought it up in email. Yeah. Whereas it was. You can imagine it's a very left field to be giving a complaint against this, guard that tortured you and stuff, and then suddenly have the GSOC representative start asking you about the doctor who molested you when you were 12. It's so unrelated to to the event that and then bringing up the stuff with my mother, which has and then a lot of communication with the GSOC member became back and forth about Tusla and everything, so it was quite cynical.
Okay. Well, listen, again, like I was saying at the start, I'm quite happy to listen through what you want to talk through, but eventually this will have to go through to GSOC.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
One of the other points, though, that I was going to say is, so if we jump forward to the 27th, the 6th, and the 2020.
Yeah.
Now I know you can't tell me if you do it, but you probably can for your own curiosity. If anyone pulls up the CCTV from that time, they will see me at the charges window, constantly and repeatedly asking why I'm there.